I'm a 27-year-old man, and I had been in a relationship with my 26-year-old girlfriend for about a year. Everything seemed to be going well, but recently, I started noticing a shift in her behavior. She became much quieter than usual and didn't text or call as often as she used to. We didn't live together, so I expected her to reach out more, but something felt off. This change made me feel uneasy and increasingly insecure. I began to have thoughts I knew weren't healthy, wondering constantly where she was, who she was with, and what she was doing. Despite trying to dismiss these thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As it turned out, my instincts weren't wrong. A friend of mine came across something that confirmed my suspicions. She told me she had discovered a second Facebook account that my girlfriend had been using. I had no idea this account even existed, and when I looked into it, I realized my girlfriend had blocked me from seeing it. Driven by a mix of confusion and desperation to understand the truth, I created a new profile to see what she might be hiding. What I discovered on that account shattered me. Her relationship status showed she was in a committed relationship with another man. There were emotional posts, pictures of them together, and public declarations of love. Everything suddenly made sense. The reason she never posted any pictures of us on the account I knew about, the one that barely had any friends, was because she was deliberately hiding our relationship. Filled with anger, confusion, and heartbreak, I called her immediately. I couldn't contain my fury and demanded an explanation. I shouted and ranted, overwhelmed by the betrayal. When she finally confessed, she told me the other man was someone from her hometown, a guy she had grown up with. They had been high school sweethearts who had reconnected 2 years ago. It hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized she had been with him the entire time she was with me. All those moments I thought were special between us, all the plans we made, they were all lies. I was just a side piece in her life. She tried to justify it by saying her family had chosen the other guy for her and that I was the love of her life, as if that would somehow make it less painful. She admitted that every time she flew back home, she would see him and sleep with him. He was ready to propose to her, start a family, and build a future together, while she was living a completely different life with me, hundreds of miles away. The betrayal cut deep. I couldn't comprehend how she could deceive me so thoroughly while pretending to love me. Desperate for the truth to be known, I decided to reach out to the other man. I sent him a message, including pictures and details of our relationship. Initially, he didn't respond, and I worried she would spin a story to make me look like a bitter ex trying to cause trouble. But eventually he replied. It turned out he had his own suspicions about her behavior. When he confronted her with the information I provided, he also told both of their families. The news spread through her small town, and soon everyone knew what she had done. Her reputation took a significant hit. She was exposed as a liar and a cheat, and the facade she had maintained crumbled. In the aftermath, she was furious with me and sent me a barrage of angry messages. But I didn't care anymore. She had made her choices and now had to face the consequences. She had wanted to live a double life without any fallout, but that's not how the world works. Actions have consequences, and her actions had finally caught up with her. While knowing the truth brought some sense of justice, it didn't immediately erase the pain I felt. The betrayal still stung deeply, and the emotional wounds were fresh. Yet, there was a small sense of closure in knowing she had been held accountable. I began focusing on myself, determined to heal and move forward. Each day became a little easier as I distanced myself from her chaos. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but knowing I was no longer a part of her web of deceit gave me a sense of freedom. She had to deal with the mess she created, and I was done being a part of it. Even now, the emotional scars remain, and I still grapple with anger and confusion. I had given her my trust, my love, and my time, and she had taken it all for granted. Letting go of that anger hasn't been easy. There's still a part of me that wanted to blow up her life, to expose her to everyone, and make sure she faced the consequences of her actions. It felt petty, but the hurt was so raw that it was hard to think rationally. I wanted the other man to know the truth, her friends and family, to see the real person behind the facade. In the end, that part did happen, and while it didn't erase the pain, it made it easier to walk away. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. I'm focusing on myself, healing, and learning from this painful chapter. The chaos is no longer mine to deal with, and that realization brings a small sense of peace. When my girlfriend and I started dating, I recently learned about something from the early days of our relationship that's been bothering me deeply. I'm struggling to understand if my feelings are justified or if I should let it go, given the circumstances. To give some context, she had just come out of a long-term relationship in August 2017. Around that time, she had been in contact with a friend she'd known since high school who lived out of state. They had been talking during her breakup, and he seemed to be someone she had lingering questions about. She wondered if there might be a deeper connection there. In early October 2017, about a month into our relationship, she traveled out of state to visit him. She told me about the trip, and I didn't think much of it then because we hadn't discussed exclusivity. However, I recently discovered that during that trip, she ended up sleeping with him. This revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. When she came back from that trip, she told me that the visit had been eye-opening for her. She said it had confirmed that I was the person she genuinely wanted to be with. At the time, I assumed she had simply visited an old friend and didn't think anything more of it. It's difficult to reconcile the reality of what happened with what I believed then. She explained to me that back then, she didn't see us as exclusive and assumed I might also be dating or sleeping with other people. She felt she needed to see if there was still something between her and this old friend before she could fully commit to anyone else. According to her, the visit made her realize she didn't want to be with anyone but me. She insisted that she hadn't intended to mislead me and saw it as a necessary step to eliminate any lingering what-ifs. What complicates the situation is that a week or two before her trip, she explicitly told me she wasn't planning to pursue anything further with this person. When she mentioned the trip, she said she was going to Colorado for a beer festival with friends. I trusted her when she said nothing would happen, and now I feel like that trust was betrayed. I later found out her real motive was to see this friend and determine if there was anything between them. When I confronted her about it, she admitted that telling me one thing and doing another was shitty, but she didn't think it was wrong because we weren't technically exclusive. She also mentioned that it should have been obvious she was going to see him, even though she didn't clarify that at the time. We officially had the exclusivity talk about a week after she returned from that trip. Since then, our relationship has been great. We've grown closer, traveled together, and even made plans to move in together when our leases are up. I've been seriously considering proposing because I genuinely love her and can see a happy future with her. However, learning about what happened in October 2017 has made me question everything. I keep thinking about the fact that we weren't technically exclusive at the time. Is it fair to hold this against her? But then, it feels like she was dishonest by telling me she wasn't pursuing anything with this person and then doing the opposite. It gave me a false sense of security. Trust is essential in any relationship, and this situation has left me feeling misled. I can't help but wonder if this early misstep is a sign of how she might handle conflicts or difficult decisions in the future. I've asked her for some space while I process everything. My mind has been a mess these past few days, and I keep going back and forth. On one hand, I understand her reasoning. She needed to see if there was anything there before fully committing to our relationship. But on the other hand, she told me one thing and did another. It's hard to shake the feeling that she took advantage of the fact that we hadn't explicitly defined our relationship yet. She insists that she's been honest and genuine since then, and I believe her. Everything has been perfect between us since we had the exclusivity talk, and I've never been happier. But now, I wonder if I can truly move past this. Would I have stayed if I had known the full story back then? I don't know. I feel misled and hurt, and I'm struggling to decide if I can let this go or if it will continue to bother me in the future. I know I can't control how I feel, but typing this all out and getting an outside perspective might help me process everything. Is my reaction justified? Should I let this go because we hadn't officially talked about exclusivity yet? I need to figure out if I can move past this without holding resentment, or if this is something that will always linger.